Day 15, back for the third BL OVA review of Pride, the halfway point of 5. This is probably the least known of the 5 that I've chosen, I think, but I could be just completely wrong. I know nothing other than what the poster looks like, that it's a military setting, and I think it's also controversial, but what good yaoi isn't? Donate to my Patreon or click join if you're not afraid of a few dead doves. That series being Hyakujitsu no Bara, aka Maiden Rose. Synopsis is as follows. 2 soldiers from warring countries are bound by a pledge as master and servant. Taki is a commander of sublime beauty, shouldering the fate of his nation. Called Mad Dog because of his rough temperament, Klaus has sworn his loyalty to him as a knight. Despite this, those around them are cold and disapproving, full of various misgivings. For all their genuine feelings, what will come of love made cruel by the violence of war? Topical. Only 2 episodes this week, so let's get to it. Okay, so finished episode 1 of 2. I will say that I am enjoying it so far, and it's very like passionate and complicated, and I very much appreciate that energy. All that happens is we get like a very brief backstory about like the world is at war, and so this one guy, Taki, is in charge of the military of one country, and he has a knight whose name is Klaus. We're introduced to the 2 of them briefly. They have sex twice. There's an invasion from the opposite country or whatever, and it's revealed that Klaus apparently has documents from both this country and the other country, and that they're trying to arrest him now. Definitely enjoying it, definitely intrigued, but again, it feels more like a snapshot into this story as opposed to like an excerpt from the story, if that makes sense. Because Fake felt like, okay, we took chapter 15 through 20 and we're adapting it into a one-off OVA. BNSH felt like it was just a shorter story overall, whereas this feels like a lot has gone on that we are missing, and it's purposely missing, and it just is kind of like, let's put key parts that would appeal to fans of the manga. Is this adapted from a manga? Yeah, from a manga. Okay, we're gonna start the story, but we're not gonna start the story where the story starts, and we're just gonna kind of take different pieces. We're gonna take like different excerpts, different scenes, different whatever, to put it together to like make like a fan disc, essentially, for lack of a better term. This is by Studio Primetime, who I don't believe exists any longer, but they are basically a studio that existed between, let me give you the dates, 2007 and 2012. Animated BL strictly. They did Ikoku, Iroquois, Romatan, which I've seen, Kire Papa, which I haven't seen yet, Hyakujitsu no Bara, and the specials, which is what this is, Seito Kaicho Nichu Koku, which I've seen, Koisuru Boken, which I've also seen, and was going to do a video on this month, but decided ultimately against it after what went on with the previous video. I was like, maybe not. And Tightrope. Wanted to shout out Studio Primetime for existing for that, 5-year period, and then completely disappearing. They are the hero we need. Can we get a Primetime Renaissance, like revisit, reboot, come back and like give us that good shit? Cause again, out of everything that I've seen, Ikoku, Iroquois, Romatan, I enjoyed. This I'm enjoying so far. Seito Kaicho Nichu Koku, I've enjoyed. Koisuru Boken, I didn't enjoy, but I did want to revisit it. And then Tightrope, I loved. They did a lot of good shit. The only one of them after this that I will not have seen is Kire Papa, which was on the docket for this month, I will say, but I just ended up cutting it because the other 2 that I decided on, and so one day we'll get to Kire Papa. But anyway, what this really reminded me of is Full Metal Alchemist. For several reasons, not just because of the military, the way the uniforms of the military look, but Klaus also looks like a hyper mask Alphonse. To me, that's how I chose to interpret him. And then you could even say inversely that Taki kind of looks like a hyper femme Roy Mustang. So I mean, hey, if that's your fan fiction, go for it. This manga is from 2004 and apparently is still ongoing. When did Full Metal? Oh, so this is actually 3 years after. So you know what? It's not outside of the realm of possibility in my delusional mind. I do like that so far I have chosen 3 distinctly thematically different stories, not just in obviously them being 3 literally different stories, but also 3 different stories that have different approach, different vibe, different theme, different time period. Klaus is voiced by Kakashi. Taki is, Kitamaru. My man Otoharu from Idolish 7, and Rekka, my man from Guren, which I probably can't show. Oh, I think I like Naotsugu Chiba too. from a regular. Oh, Daiji Hirasago from Bleach. He was a filler character, I believe. Yeah, Maki Ichinose, who was also a filler character from Bleach. I believe from the Bount arc, but do not quote me on that. So it's Kakashi and Kidomaru. Talk about a rare pair from Naruto. Taki says to Klaus in one of the flashbacks, your country, your rights, your family, you will abandon them all. I don't know what any of that means, but I'm here for it. And like, there's something that was said towards the end where Klaus basically like saying like, why are you being so cold to me? Because you were the one who liked me first or something like that. Because like there's whole relationship so far is like rather violent. Some sort of something's going on where Taki liked Klaus, but for some reason has become cold to Klaus. And it's like frustrating Klaus, and that's where the aggression is coming from, we could say. The boys in the military school are absolutely bouncy and hilarious. They're adorable. There's like this whole thing around Taki of like Taki having to be pristine and like despite being a commander, he shouldn't see people being injured in like blood and dirt and dirty things, which is kind of odd. But I very much am enjoying the drama and the passion and the unspoken tension and like the overall like complications of the relationship. But let's find out more about that in the second half. Yeah, I generally know how I feel about this. And like, I will say that of the 3 stories that I've watched and reviewed so far, this is probably narratively the story I like the most. However, there are things that come with that. After Klaus effectively Taki last episode, Klaus brought him to the doctor. The doctor inspects him and it gives the backstory about how Taki's role in his bloodline is related to some shit to the emperor of the country and how they're supposed to be this like chaste, pure entity where their bloodline and chastity is protected by the gods. Klaus leaves but then arrests him for treason, allegedly, getting interrogated, and then Taki ultimately saves him. He's confused and Taki's like, don't leave my side, my night, and blah, blah, blah. And basically, we still don't have the full fucking picture. And like, that's obviously, like I said, not the point of what this OVA is. It benefits it in terms of selling intrigue, because I'm very intrigued. Will I pick up the manga? I have no time for anything. The external of everything around in the world affecting them individually causes what is a fairly fucking simple relationship to end up being a lot more complicated and have complex aspects to it. Is generally, I guess I could say, what I gather from the whole situation. Klaus has obviously clearly left his whole fucking country to be with Taki, and so when Taki is being apprehensive in scenarios which should be easy and apparently in the past have been easy between them, he gets agitated by it. Because with Klaus, it seems like he's called a wild dog. That's generally how his personality is and how he is seen as a person and how he chooses to navigate the world. And like the one place where he doesn't have freedom, which is the entire reason he has this like freedom, is Taki. And so when Taki is showing apprehension, then he gets like angry, and that's when he enacts against violence. But then Taki inversely is this whole situation where like he wants this night and like clearly views Klaus as like an escape from the duty that he has inherited against his will. He wants to pursue like his needs and his desires with Klaus, but at the same time, he can't fully give himself up to that because he feels guilty for then acting on his own desires when he's supposed to be something bigger than desire, essentially. And I think just like the nature of his willingness in bed, I think depends entirely on like the specific situation. In the past, there was no pressure, and so he was willing to just do whatever with Klaus. Whereas in the present, it's like he still wants to do that, but his willingness to do that is then stifled by his sense of duty. So it's like getting like my pleasure, but at the same time, I'm punishing myself because I shouldn't be pursuing pleasure. Taki doesn't want to like be vocal with Klaus because he probably knows that if he's vocal with Klaus, like they wouldn't be in this situation and he wouldn't be having like punishing, and Klaus would like listen and understand. But like Taki doesn't want that because he both wants what he wants, but at the same time like feels like he should be punished for wanting what he wants. Is generally how I like view the situationship. The sword kissing was very phallic because like Taki's over here like he has this. We'll do it up here because we're not doing full body. I don't have socks on. No, can't be giving all that service during Pride. Holding the sword, and like the sword is like at his crotch basically. Clearly artistically intentional. Klaus goes and like bends over, just like kneels down and kisses it. That was fucking hilarious. Hilarious, iconic imagery. Overall, I'm gonna give it a 7 out of 10. I will say that I enjoy the story cumulatively more than the back 2 episodes of BNSH, and definitely enjoy it more than Fate. But because it's lacking so much context and feels, again, just like a snapshot, I don't personally feel a desire to give it higher than a 7, even though like I feel like a broader series could ultimately, depending on execution, be a 8 or maybe even a 9. Maybe not a 9, probably like 8.5, which I would round up to a 9, but that's just generally how I feel. So let's get into the specials. Okay, so specials are hilarious. I'm actually gonna give the specials An 8. I mean, not that I necessarily would want this to be a comedy series, but I feel like that gave like a better example, even being so brief and being like an out of character fucking Kimono Mimi spinoff. I feel like it did a better job of like showing out the cast, because I feel like of the characters that we got in the main OVA, everybody just kind of felt like indiscernible outside of like the Doctor, whereas here there was other characters who didn't even make an appearance in the main series. And to describe what happens in the specials, it's basically just like two goofy moments where like it's explained that it's all chibi characters, by the way, and there is Cat Ear, Neko Mimi, and Inu Mimi, where Klaus is Inu Mimi and everyone else is Neko Mimi, basically. The first one is about when Klaus first gets brought to the Neko Mimi nation, and then goofy shit goes on. And then the second one is about Klaus being malnourished, and then Taki wanted to make food for him. So goofy things, like 5 minutes each, not really much else to say. But I am gonna give it an 8 out of 10. In combination, in totality, I'm still giving it I would say a 7 out of 10 for everything, all of that. Again, this is not a story that I am so intrigued that I would pick up the manga necessarily at this moment in time, because I'm behind on everything. But I could definitely see myself picking up down the line if I was like, you know what, I'm curious, whatever happened with that series. Apparently it's still ongoing, so I apparently would probably have a lot to catch up on. So that is the Maiden Rose. Have you seen it before, or is my understanding that it's not that known just a me problem? Basically, for the last review, when I said, oh, it's a war story, did you guess this, or were you assuming that it was another one? And if it was another one, let me know. I feel like this is the only actual war-based one I actually know. Topical, one of the key ways to prevent your country from going to war is to make sure competent people are in power. So make sure to donate to any of the campaigns that are endorsed by Track APAC in the comment below. For the record, they're called Track APAC to prevent you from supporting candidates that are endorsed by APAC. The name can be misleading. Tomorrow starts the second fortnight of Pride, and we're gonna kick it off by highlighting some of my favorite LGBT characters from shoujo. Bye!